Do you have an electric car? Are you a fan of electric cars, or are you against electric cars? Well, here's another black mark against the electric car market. At the moment, insurance companies say there is no way to check whether a vehicle has had its battery compromised. And the risk of a thermal runaway, which is basically where they start to catch fire and you just cannot put them out. Basically, the fire brigade have to stand by and let the thing burn itself out. You've probably seen it. You've seen the Luton Airport, I believe it was, Tesla dealerships, and many other instances of these things just going off. And it's a risk that the insurance company don't want to take. Now, I believe the insurance put it up about 23% the first time, which was, I think, 2020 or something like that. And now the insurance has gone up 73%. That's unbelievable. And they said that the cost of repairing an electric car compared to a diesel or a petrol motor is significantly more expensive. But they said trying to diagnose whether a battery has been damaged in an accident at the moment is much like a doctor trying to work out what's wrong with you without notes or an x-ray, which kind of makes sense. And there is no way at the moment to be able to connect anything up to that battery and work out whether any of the cells, because I believe there's many cells in there, have been damaged. So even with a very slight bump at the moment, they're considering, or they do, write off electric vehicles, which make them an insurance company's nightmare. The other thing that also comes to mind is, how do these vehicles get recycled after? How much of it can be recycled and how much of it can't? Because a lot of this electric push at the moment, say for instance these turbines you see, the wind turbines, they all seem great, especially if you're in a particularly windy area. Great news. Although our network doesn't have the facility to store it, so sometimes they get switched off, which is a bit stupid, but whatever. But it's the recycling of these things that are the nightmare, basically. Obviously, if you were to take the whole thing down, there are parts of it that can be recycled, i.e. if it's metal, the part going up, that could, the electric motor. But the actual blades, if you want, they can't be recycled. So they have to dig a big hole and landfill them. That's not exactly very green, is it? And it does seem to me that at the moment, this green agenda for, was it net zero 2030 or something, whatever, is a pie in the sky dream. What it is a massive cash cow. Everybody pays extra taxes because they're not reaching this agenda, etc., etc. But when you look at, say, for instance, an old vehicle that's been around and they've got 40 or 50 years out of it, I would say that in some ways that was better, because the carbon footprint that it took to make that vehicle has probably paid for itself over the course of time. As, say, for instance, an electric vehicle, which probably cost a lot more regarding carbon footprint to make, and then in a very short space of time, some unfortunate idiot goes up the back of it, or maybe the person who's driving it crashes it, whatever, and doesn't do a huge amount of damage to it, but then the insurance company say too much of a risk to put it back on the road in case it has a thermal runaway, and you know, we have a claim against us for that, so we'll just write it off. I did see there was a field of electric cars years ago, and they were just all lined up. They didn't know what to do with them, so it was just, there they were. But I'm wondering at the moment, because they were trying to bring about electric trucks, because we're about 20 years behind, apparently. Me sat in a truck right now which runs on diesel. However, this is significantly more efficient than, say, for instance, my old Land Rover TDI, all right, or my old Ford Capri, if we want to go there. My old Ford Capri was leaded, 4-star, as we used to call it, and I would go through probably 5 litres of oil in a week and a half with that thing. Valve stem seals were gone, probably rings weren't too clever. I flogged the horrors out of it. And we would actually choke in that car. When I raced it and backed off, the fumes that came into the cabin, we'd actually end up with the windows down, which meant more fumes came in. Doesn't make any sense, but that's what it did. So we'd end up pulling over a lot of the time. And you'd know, I mean, you say, for instance, even now, if you were to follow an old car down the road, like, for instance, a Ford Capri or I followed an XR3i a while back, and they smell different. They do actually smell different. It's notable. But going back to, if that car's lasted X amount of time, the carbon footprint to make is paid for. However, it does make you wonder. Say, for instance, this truck. I'm running on something called AdBlue at the moment, which is an additive that's put into the exhaust, which apparently is supposed to help neutralize certain emissions coming up. I don't know much about it. What I do know is they go wrong a lot. This one in particular, if I don't keep it topped up halfway, it'll end up throwing lights up on the dash, or sucking air in, or doing something really weird. That exhaust that I've got like down there, it's about £4 to buy, I believe, but it's got numerous filters in it, particulate filters, an ammonia filter, and all sorts of other stuff. So this vehicle here is very green in itself when driven sensibly. Well, there you go. I mean, things have changed, but I don't believe that this going green and us all being electric vehicles is going to work. And I go back to my point. These vehicles on the electric side of things, as I said, we're 20 years behind. But the actual amount of current that you would need to put into, say, for instance, a small company, we've got about 9 trucks. If you had to charge these up every night, and they were battery powered, given the fact that also I wouldn't be able to carry anywhere near as much weight because the battery in itself would be X amount of tons. It'd be very heavy, which would also impact the damage on the road surface, that, you know, because we have numerous amounts of tyres and axles to spread the load over the ground that we drive on, so you have less damage. And bear in mind, these things themselves actually run on leaf springs, so they damage a lot more than, say, air suspension, which most trucks have. But anyway, say for instance this thing did have a battery, the amount of current that it would draw, the place where we're parked wouldn't be able to service. Now I know that companies have said we are thinking about going over to X amount of electric vehicles, here's the amount of current we're going to need, can you lay that onto us? And the power companies just laugh at them. It's no, not at all, not possible, can't do it. So how is it that trucks are meant to go green if we couldn't charge them? It's a simple question. It's just it's an impossibility, but it's the carrot that's dangled in front of us. This is where we'll be by 2030, but it's not doable. But there it is. Anyway, just more bad news. Oh, that was the other thing, the EV market. They're literally struggling to sell them at the moment. Nobody wants to touch them because obviously the thermal runaway, and people are aware that at some point they're going to get taxed, road taxed. And they know that charging them up is not as cheap as it was. I was thinking about doing it, but I think other people have done it. I was going to get my Transit or my pickup, probably the Transit because I didn't sleep in it, and put a trailer on the back and drive up to Scotland and work out how much fuel it cost and how much I needed to stop, and get somebody to come along with me in a, say for instance, a hired electric car, and see how long it takes them to get to the same place I'm going, and also how much it costs in electric. And I'm willing to wager that my Transit, even towing a trailer, will be cheaper. That's ridiculous. Where is the incentive for somebody to go out and buy an electric car if in the long run it's not actually cheaper to run and it's a ball ache? I remember my friend, she said management said some bigwigs coming down to visit our company, and you need to plan the charge points for him on the way down. What a ball ache. What an absolute nightmare. And what if you can't get charged, say for instance, the place where you're visiting, which means you've got to go and wait for however long it takes for your vehicle to charge. Now, I believe there's slow charge and fast charge. But if you fast charge a battery, you actually diminish the life out of it rather than slow charging it. They'll ask me why. I don't understand enough about them, but that is what I do understand. But there's just, I mean, I know that if you're one of these green woke people, that you can end up saying, well, I've got an electric car, I'm doing my bit. You're not really actually, are you? But you look good, don't you? But the pain in the arse that goes with it, I'm not sure I could cope with. Well, I wouldn't cope with it anyway. I'm told they go well. I'm told that Teslas, if you give it some stick, they will go off like a scolded cat. However, it's not all about that, is it? What are they like on tyres? They're heavier, aren't they? So do they go through tyres more? And obviously you've got the stigma of driving an electric car because everybody thinks you're a tosser. Sorry, they fucking do. The average person that sees a person driving a Tesla just thinks you're a wanker. But there it is. Anyway, I'm about to drive my truck and go to work and earn some money, so I can give it all away. I'll see you in a bit.